Hi beautiful souls, welcome back to the channel, Beautiful Awakening with Shantia. This is my second video I'm making today because I'm going to be taking a break, and I wanted to talk about breaking ancestral patterns and doing shadow work and working with guides. So this is going to be a story time video, but I want to share my story, my perspective, just to let you guys know, let you into how you can connect with those higher beings if you desire to, and how that's worked for me. I'm still somewhat new to this. I haven't been doing it that long, but for sure, the voices that I've heard in my head all these years, not those voices, not schizophrenia, but the voices that I've heard in my head have been with me for a long time, and I've finally identified them. So, story time. Let's get into this. So the other day I was meditating, and I went into a very deep meditation. And immediately I was connected with an Ascendant Master, which is Buddha. So these Ascendant Masters, it's not like, oh my God, their energy's everywhere. They exist in spirits. There's a spirit or an energy. They're almost like guides, like higher level guides, Ascendant Masters like Buddha. And you can work with them if you want to call them into your life. But I heard it on someone else's channel. Don't try to work with them. Let them introduce themselves to you. So I set the intention, I think about a month ago, to be introduced to my guides. I knew they were helping me, and even months before that, maybe it was last year, maybe sometime at the end of last year, I pulled cards to curiously know who my guides were. I knew one was a female, and then I know one was a male, and then there's another one. And funny enough, that's what showed up in my meditations, or in my recent meditations. I was like, oh, okay, I know I have names for them. I know exactly what they look like, but granted that it doesn't really matter what they look like because they're energies. Through those connections, through me connecting to these light beings that we have all access to, they're essentially our soul family. I was watching someone talk about this. Our guides are our soul family. They're here to help us. We don't do anything alone. We're never doing anything alone. They're constantly whispering to us, like, do it like this, try this, try that. So if you ever find yourself coming up with ideas, it's probably your guides working with you or trying to help you in some way. And anyways, recently I did a deep meditation. Buddha came up. Immediately I knew who it was. I was like, okay, that's the energy of Buddha. He showed up somewhat younger in my vision. And he just talked to me about learning how to help people and learning how to exercise self-control. You know, we were just talking, and in this realm of intuition, I was basically astral traveling. We were just walking. He was dressed up in a robe, you know, top knot bun. You know, this is just kind of like my imagination. But the thing was, it's not really imagination. It didn't take any time for me to formulate what he looked like and who it was. It was like, it took 2 seconds. So that's how I know it's energy. It's not just me. By the way, imagination isn't fake. It's kind of like you're fusing together energies and things and ideas. But it all exists. You're just kind of putting it together in one place. But I wasn't trying to. I was just going into a deep meditation, and I was kind of talking with my guides, and then he showed up. He showed up, and he was just teaching me how to get really centered in meditation, maintaining proper posture. He was telling me how it's important to hold proper posture because it actually helps to heal the body if you keep it in that state. And he said, if you're ever uncomfortable or twitchy, just sit through it, no matter what, because this is you disciplining yourself and becoming more disciplined with your frantic energies or your nerves, essentially. And then another figure kind of showed up, and I was like, when it showed up, I was like, oh, that was kind of scary. That was kind of an intimidating energy. What is that? And then it made itself out, and he was just kind of there. It was like a shadow. He was in the shadow, and then I just looked at him, and he just turned around and left. So that, I realized immediately, it was like a shadow spirit. Upon meditating on it further, I was talking to Buddha with it, and he was kind of teaching me what that energy was and what it was there to represent for me. But that energy was, so essentially we have light beings and we have shadow beings. The light and the dark. There's no such thing as good or bad. This is all of God. There is no light without shadow. There's no shadow without light. So there's an existence of dark and light beings. They're not necessarily here to hurt us. So that was the weird thing. I got this vibe So the figure I saw, it looked like a ginormous, it looked like a character out of a video game, but it was like almost like a human-like rhinoceros standing up, and he was geared up in armor of some sort, and he had weaponry, and his eyes were glowing red. And he wasn't trying to intimidate me, he was just standing there. He looked at me, and then he just left. And I had basically let him go in that meditation session with Buddha. And I wasn't trying to do that. I've been talking to my guys for weeks, been like, okay, what am I supposed to be working on? Because they kept telling me to do my internal work, but they just kept telling me it would happen naturally and I didn't have to try it. I just had to set an intention to release. And basically it was a shadow demon, and I Googled it. I Googled the words shadow demon. I had a name for him right away. His name was Bruiser. And I was like, I don't know, that's the name I heard in my head when I identified him. I knew he had been with me for a long time, since I was a kid. And in fact, he's part of my ancestral line. So this is something, I think this is why I'm not crazy about religion, because some people, they just talk about demons as if they're just bad. They're like, oh my God, they're just bad. No, we all actually incarnate with all kind of sacred contracts. We incarnate with challenging sacred contracts. We call it karma. And we incarnate with positive sacred contracts, like gifts, things that feel very lighthearted and easy, best friends and soulmates. You know, we incarnate with all of that. And it's for us to kind of undo some kind of energy. He's part of my ancestral line, both my mother and my father's, and his name was Bruiser, and he was supposed to represent this like sort of protective energy and also a bully. So he represents an inner bully that I carried with me, very overcritical inner bully, which kind of like beat me up. But the thing about any kind of energy is it can manifest in ways that are very deceptive to us. So he actually served as protection or armor for me for many years, for me to protect myself. So if I didn't want to let someone into my energy or trust anyone, he was the energy that would he would be very strict, overcritical, and protect me from getting hurt, basically. He wasn't really protecting me. It was more of a closing energy. But this is how I saw him, and that's what he was there for. He was just part of my ancestral line, and I was here to undo break that ancestral karma pattern with me in my DNA or whatever. And when I was looking up shadow demon, someone was talking about a character. So those video game characters, a lot of the characters people create in these fantasy video games, they're not fake. A lot of that is real. Those creatures exist in different realms. We're not making anything up. We're just downloading. So someone was talking about how the shadow demon uses this forceful thing of display of power. So if you think about Donald Trump, this forceful display of power, he also kind of connected me to this energy of the mark of Cain. If you guys have ever seen that, the mark of Cain was actually a mark given by God to protect Cain, in a sense where anyone who hurt Cain would get twice as hurt or something like that. That's what he served. He was a shadow energy, not a light energy, and he was connected to a low frequency energy. So whenever I got really upset and dark and mad and angry, he would be very dominant in my energy and my auric field. And he served to, in some way, protect me. So some of these shadow beings, they don't just create harm. They can actually manifest abundance. They can manifest experiences to you, but it's tied to low frequency energy. So to sustain their presence, to sustain them into your life, you have to maintain a low frequency energy. When your vibration starts to rise, they fall off naturally. They can't sustain. They can't keep with you. And in fact, as they fall off, ascendant masters and higher divine beings start to come into your energy field to work with you, because your frequency is rising. So that's what he represented for me. And he just looked at me and he walked away because it was healed. It was healed. And I've been doing a lot of healing for the past 3 months, guys. Oh my gosh, it's been intense. The past year has been crazy, but the past 3 months has been very intensive meditation, detaching from a lot of things, letting a lot of things fall away. And it's allowed me to heal more rapidly. So do your healing, do your shadow work, so you can break those ancestral patterns. Now, as far as guides go, anyways, let me go back to the dark beings. These dark beings, they're not just bad. We connect to them. Sometimes we carry sacred contracts with them to kind of like work with them, just like we have contracts with guides, but only to learn how to wake up or overcome them. That's it. It gives you a story, essentially. Your soul has a story. It chooses dysfunctional partnerships. It chooses dysfunctional situations to be born into so that you can learn how to overcome those fears. That's it. It's just part of your assignment. And a lot of people who have been given very challenging psychological experiences early on wake up sooner. They wake up sooner. So they're not bad. they're just energy. That's it. And I would never intentionally try to call... I would definitely not intentionally try to call it to me, but it's just something to be aware of. They can be connected to your arc field, and just through healing, you'll start to see them. They'll start to fall away. They can't hurt you. They can't do anything to you. Some of them actually served, like I said, it was like protection, but psychologically, he was creating a challenging experience for me, and he was enhancing my voice, creating a voice inside of me, or fueling or feeding the momentum or the energy of that voice in my head that was bullying me and saying all kind of crazy things just for nothing. So after that, prior to that, I had set the intention to meet my guides, and within like a month time, I met all my guides. Well, I saw 3. So I've heard we have 3 guides, and I met just 3 of them. I don't know if I have more. And I met my guardian angel as well. So my guides, they showed themselves like randomly. I would just meditate, and I would just talk to them because I started to hear voices. I've been hearing voices in my imagination just since last year. Okay. It's nothing crazy. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a different spirit. I don't know if it's a guide. I don't know. Because their voices would all kind of merge together. So I didn't know who was who. And sometimes I would talk to my higher self, and I was like, okay, because I was like, that feels like a female. But actually, now that I think about it, that might have been my guide. So if you ever do meditations to meet your guides, just set an intention, and eventually they'll show themselves. And it has nothing to do with them hiding themselves from you. You just have to be in the energy. You don't have to don't feel guilty or crazy like, oh my God. It's just like, you don't know. We can't see it. We can't see all the healing we're doing. We have no idea. The only way you're able to know is you have to go into the realms, into your intuition. You have to dive into the subconscious mind. That's the only way you're going to know where you're at when it comes to your healing experience and how available your guides are to you. So for some people, it might just be a voice. It might just be clues, pictures. I've been talking to my guides for over a year now, and they've been... So I've gotten used to knowing and differentiating my energy from theirs, or other light energies from my energy, even though we're all part of Source. And they started to introduce them to me. The first one I met was, I think his name is Raquel. I don't know. That was the name I came up with in my head. I was like, is it Raquel or Raquel? It was one or the other, but he's my knowledge person. And the next one that showed up was because my energy was a little frantic, and he introduced himself as, I heard Jericho. And for some reason, I keep calling him the moon, because I looked up Jericho and it means the city of the moon. I also heard Jeremy, and Jeremy means exalted by God. So I was like, Jeremy, Jericho, the moon. But in my head, he's officially become the moon, or moon. And he's kind of funny, playful, but he helps me to just like chill out. And then my third guide was Josephine, and she's a woman, very comfortable with her feminine energy, her confidence, and her goddess energy. And she just kind of teaches me how to own my feminine energy and qualities. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. It's like your guides come in, they're here to teach you and show you who you are. They're part of you. You've been hearing them all your life. They've been guiding you your entire life. And some of them, I think I've heard that some of them, sometimes they fall away and then others will come. Some come as like very specific messengers to work with one-on-one to help you accomplish some kind of goal. And your guides know that you have a sacred contract to carry out. They're here to help you fulfill it, and they're just going to give you just enough clues for you to get onto the next level. And they don't want you to jump ahead or fast forward your life. They want you to be very present for everything. So the last thing my guides wanted me to teach you is about, by the way, all of those guides showed up in different meditations. They didn't show up all at once. They showed up weeks apart from each other. I would say weeks and days. Yeah. Moon and Josephine showed up a week, almost like a week apart from one another. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was how there are certain spirits we've always been aware of since we were kids. And one of them I wanted to give you an example to help you connect to your infinite abundance. Even if you live in a different part of the world, in America, we celebrate Christmas, but they are telling me that Santa Claus is a real spirit. I think he is based off of a real person who was very generous to kids at one point in time. During a very depressing era, he kind of helped to bring upliftment to kids just out of pure generosity. And I believed in Santa Claus up until I was 8 because I realized my parents were wrapping the gifts, and I started to then feel guilty about presents. And about after that time was when my parents were struggling financially and they stopped giving us many gifts. And to me, Christmas just became a weird, complex thing because before I was just like, well, Santa Claus can give us anything, so you can ask for whatever you want. And during those years, we would always get the best gifts. Like Santa was super generous, super giving. It was so exciting. And then after that, it became like this weird, like, oh no, my parents are sacrificing so much. But Santa Claus is a spirit of abundance. And that's what the spirit, Santa Claus is kind of like an ascendant master energy, but he's a representation of the spirit of abundance, and it's not for nothing. He shows up during the Sagittarius season. If you follow Vedic, he shows up during the Sagittarius season. And right at the beginning of it, by the way, he shows up right at the beginning of Sagittarius season, and he's supposed to represent this infinite abundance that's always available, this childlike abundance that's always available. But my guides wanted me to communicate to you guys, understanding that Santa Claus, or those spirits that you believed in when you're kids, they're real. Okay? They're real. And that's what abundance feels like. It feels like Santa Claus. That's what life is supposed to feel like every day. Not just Christmas. It's our adult mindset complicated. But when I was a kid and I believed in Santa Claus, oh my goodness, Santa Claus always got me everything. I was so spoiled. I felt like it was the best time of the year. Candy galore, toys galore. It was the best, right? It was the most magical time. And my guides wanted me to remind you guys to believe in the spirit of Christmas again, but for every day. Believe in the spirit of Santa Claus. Know that he's real, and the more you feel that energy of that childlike wonder and abundance, you will always be provided for. And so I was very skeptical. Like, that was the strong message that came through when I first started my channel. I wanted to just blurt out of my mouth, and I was like, who am I to tell people that they can just have all of that abundance? You're a child of divine. The universe will take care of you. Am I crazy? And they're like, don't shy away from that messaging. It exists. We're trying to teach you to teach other people to connect to it too, so they can tap into their infinite abundance. But y'all are, and I've seen it in the readings, you're manifesting some incredible experiences, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy for you. And just keep going. That's it. That is how you create the Garden of Eden here on Earth. And I'm still blown away. I've never followed the Tarot Priest before. I checked out her channel and I was like, her message is exactly the same as mine. I've been saying this for the past year. That's crazy. We're like, it's a wave. So it's like a wave. We're all just being affected by it, and it's so infectious, and we're just allowing ourselves to go for the ride. So ride this wave of divinity, wind of divinity, whatever you want to call it, and let it show you some things and show you how miraculous life can be, and how happy you can be, honestly, for nothing. It's just like, be happy just to be happy, and then the universe will have to mirror that inner reality into your external one. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Like, subscribe to support. Let me know what you're thinking. Bye. Broken bones, they weave strong. I pull myself